What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So today, we are going to be talking about Limit Break Expansion. Now, there was a new batch of Limit Break Expansions that was announced in-game, and they're currently live right now, and I completely forgot to make a video about it. I did briefly discuss them. I can't remember which video it was. It might have been the video where the Treasure Map Sugo Fest was data mined. But I did briefly discuss some of the Sugo Fest exclusives in that video that we're getting a Limit Break expansion. But actually, a couple of people have hit me up saying that they wanted to see a video discussing them and, you know, deciding whether or not they're worth spending the materials on. So in this video today, we're going to go ahead and do that. So let's start from the bottom and we're going to work our way up to the top. And you can see that today we're actually in the game, and that's because, you know, they're currently live in game. So I might as well show you guys the characters and what they're able to achieve. So let's start off at the INT typing right down the bottom. Now, I've got a list here on the side so I know that I don't skip over any characters. So, starting from the INT typing, we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. So the first character is Baccarat. So Baccarat is actually a good unit. I actually really like this unit, number one, because Baccarat is Baccarat. But I'm actually a huge fan of what this unit does. She is actually really good. Now, as for her expansion here, you can see that she does get some stats. She does get -2 cooldown as well, and she gets a new limit break ability of Ship Bind, or reducing ship despair, whatever it's called. This specific effect isn't that prominent in the game right now, so I would say you don't really need to worry about that too much. But when you look at this, she goes down to a 10-turn cooldown, so she's 12 right now. After the expansion, she goes down to 10, which is pretty good, right, for what she does, because she reduces attack down, paralysis, the chain lock all by 3 turns, and then if you've got an int or quick captain, she gets a matching slot and a 1.75 all boost to your whole team. Very good special ability that sees play in a vast array of teams. She's a cerebral character, she's a striker character, very powerful unit, right? So she is really good, but do I think it's worth all of the materials spent to Limit Break expand her? No, probably not. You can get away with her on a 12-turn cooldown, unless if specifically you wanted to use her on like a GARP challenge or something, and you really needed that extra cooldown so you don't have to stall as much for a special, potentially. But that's up to you at the end of the day. I don't think it's really super worth it, unless if you specifically need the abilities. And that goes with any Limit Break expansion. You shouldn't just go off the cuff and Limit Break expand a character just because you've got available materials, because you just never know when you're going to need materials to Limit Break another character. And by Limit Break expanding something that you might not need right now, you could waste materials for other characters you might need in the future, right? So you should only be expanding Limit Break if you need that character's expanded Limit Break specifically on that day. Otherwise, you want to, you know, steer clear of this, I would say. Now, the next one on the list here is Scarlet, who is a character that basically never sees play. Let's have a look at what Scarlet gets, though. -5 cooldown is pretty good. -5 is actually very good. And then also the ability to reduce the ship bind. Okay. But as for this character, as I said, it barely sees play. If your HP is 10% or below, you get a 2x orb boost. And if your captain is driven, you get an orb lock, and then reduce end of turn damage, enemy attack up, and enemy enrage by 5 turns. Yeah, that's not great, because being below 10% is something that doesn't happen too often, and would only really happen if you're literally running Shiki as your captain to get everything to activate here. I'd say if you're a huge Shiki fanatic, then go for it, but otherwise it's not worth it. I mean, 8-turn cooldown for what Scarlet does is fine, but again, as I said, it's not super duper worth it. No, you could skip this one. Next on the list, now I don't think this one was officially announced as like this one is coming right now, but I know that this one is also available because I've already done it, is the Limit Break expansion for Ain, because these are all movie related Limit Break expansions, and I did choose to do Ain because it's a character that I use all the time, and with her expansion she gets -1 cooldown, and she does not get a third ability, which is kind of a shame, but either way, it's still a really good Limit Break because I've got Cotton Candy on her as well, so her stats are looking very nice. She is rainbowed out, max her support effect as well. Her support effect is actually really good, reducing enemies' defense up if you've got Zephyr or Binz on your crew. And of course, she's got double special activation. So again, you shouldn't do it just off the cuff. It's only if you need the Limit Break materials. If you need a character with their expansion, that's when you should do it. Okay, just hopefully you guys understand that, so you don't get, you don't get messed up, and you don't, lose all your materials on a character you just didn't need to spend them on. And then the last character that's INT that we can talk about very briefly is Stampede Robin. Stampede Robin is actually a good unit. She's really good. We'll talk about her in a sec, but she gets -1 cooldown, and she does get the reduced character's fear duration, which is the ability where the enemy will despair your crewmates, where they can't use their sailor effects. That's what that ability is. So she gets that. I don't actually have her max special, so she goes down by another 3, so it goes down to 11. So 10 turn max cooldown after Limit Break expansion is pretty good. So at 10 turns after expansion, you get a 1.75 color affinity for 3 colors, strength, quick, and int, and then an ore block for 1 turn. That's very good on a 10 turn cooldown. So again, it's a character that is very good with expansion, but probably only worth it if it's a character that you legitimately use all the time. Otherwise, you don't need to worry about it. So that is the int typing. Let's move on to the psi typing. So the first one is going to be probably Binz. Here he is right here, Binz, who is also from the Zephyr batch. This guy gets some cooldown, -1, and also gets a reduced bind ship ability. So this guy goes down to a 9 turn cooldown for what he does, but this guy, again, is a character that never really sees play. 40 times attack in, typeless damage to all enemies, delays them by 1 turn, and if the HP of the enemy with the highest max HP is 80% or below, you get a 1.75 shooter ore boost for 3 turns. Which, like, this is not terrible, but at the same time, like, that condition where the highest HP enemy has to be below 80% is just awful. It would be much better if it was just a flat-out 1.75 ore boost for 3 turns without the condition. This unit would actually see play, but no, this is a trash use of your limit break materials. Do not do it. Absolute garbage. No way. I honestly don't even remember the last time I used that character. He's just not good. The next one is going to be a treasure map character, actually. Here he is right here. So Enel actually gets an expansion. He gets some cooldown, -2 cooldown, and just some stats across the board there. So he'll go down to a 13 turn cooldown. Remember though, that this is a character that has a very good crewmate ability where anytime any other special is launched, when he is a crewmate, he gets -5 special cooldown. Remember though that, you know, when you launch his special, he'll be on a 13 turn cooldown post expansion. You still have to use 3 other specials in order to get it to activate, but it means that, like, if you use it really early on, you might only have to use 2 specials in order to get it back a little bit quicker on another stage. So that's something to think about. I don't think this is totally worth it, especially in this day and age where we don't get Fortnite Islands anymore. I'd say potentially if we're in another time where, you know, Fortnites were extremely common, yeah, this might be worth it, but currently, I don't think it's going to be a really good idea, because even if you use him on treasure maps and stuff, like other treasure maps, it's not really a big deal that his special's not always going to be active, but I guess maybe, like, I don't really know personally. I don't think this is totally worth it. Again, you should just hold off on your materials. That's what I think anyway. But if you're a huge fan of NL, go for it. He is still a relatively good unit, but I just think the materials that you put in and then what you get out of it doesn't mean much, personally speaking. But then again, I haven't done it, so I don't really know. You could really flip a coin with this one. I'm saying no. I'm saying you should probably hold off on this one. That's just what I think anyway. The next one is going to be Nami. So this is Stampede Nami right now, wherever she is. Here she is right here. This unit, again, is also really good. Unfortunately, she doesn't get any cooldown. That's a bummer. And she does get the ability to reduce fear duration, which is actually pretty good for this unit because she has the Sailor effect to resist special reverse and also special bind, which is the big one. Because with her special, she reduces special bind. So you have, obviously, the unit resisting special bind with a Sailor effect and with her special. I don't like the fact that she does not get any cooldown. I wish that she got, like, at least 2 turns of cooldown would have made this unit so good. If she got cooldown, I would say this is a 100% yes, but because of the no cooldown reduction and she literally only gets stats, and because of the lack of fear debuff in the game, I would say just skip this one completely. No real need to do it. Now, the next one is Stampede Luffy. Stampede Luffy, again, another really good unit. He does get some cooldown though, -1 cooldown, which will put him at what? 9 turns for his special. Okay, that's pretty absurd. And of course, he does get some statistical increases, 100. So he gets 200 additional attack. That's pretty good, man. It's pretty good. 2,248. Yeah, that's nothing to scoff at. That's a lot of attack. And obviously, any little bit of attack power that this guy can get enhances his damage when you activate his special, especially if you have the support Sabo, right? Just enhancing his attack power by so much. So if you are a person who uses Stampede Luffy a lot, and I'm talking like you're literally using him every day, or he's like your go-to legend, potentially it might be worth spending the materials to do it, but personally speaking, I don't think it's going to be the best use of your materials. But I don't think I'd be that mad at you if you did it, though, because the additional stats obviously are very, very good for Stampede Luffy. So that's that. Let's move on to quick now. So let's scroll up and have a look at the quick type, and we've got a few characters here to look at. First one is going to be Brook, Stampede Brook right here. Does this guy get cooldown? He does. He gets -2 cooldown and no third ability, which is very odd actually. So he goes to 12 turn cooldown. For what he does is not bad because he's a 1.5 attack booster for 1 turn for strength, quick, and int. But then if you hit 4 perfects, you get a 2 times attack boost for 2 turns for those same colors. Not a terrible effect. But at the same time, personally speaking, I haven't used this guy literally outside of the treasure map that he was boosted for. He was boosted obviously on the treasure map Smoker, but outside of that, I don't think I've actually used this guy, unfortunately. But on paper, he's actually a pretty good unit. He actually reduces blindness by 10 turns. I actually didn't know he did that, so that's cool and all. But nah, I don't think it's totally worth it, personally speaking. The next one after this is going to be another treasure map unit, which is going to be Smoker. Smoker is actually, again, another really good unit. -2 cooldown is always good to see, so he'll go down to a 12-turn cooldown. This one you might want to consider. He's got a great special. He does damage, and then he is a 2 times orb boost and 0.7 chain booster. Or the orb boost is specifically for driven and fighter characters, and your captain has to be either driven or fighter for that to activate. So he actually works perfectly with Douglas Bullet, as you'd expect. So yeah, he is pretty good, I must admit. He is pretty good, going down to 12 turns and obviously getting additional statistics on top of that. So again, if this is a character that you actually use really often, then you may want to consider it, but you're not really missing out on much by not doing it, is what I would say. So I don't think you really need to worry about it too much. Now, this is the most exciting part here. We have 3 SugoFest exclusives here in the quick typing that are getting their expansion. The first one we'll talk about is Tesoro. He's the biggest, baddest one that we're talking about, the big bad boy. This guy has an amazing limit break expansion. First of all, -1 cooldown, which means he's going to go down to an 8-turn cooldown, which is already fantastic. He didn't need any cooldown reduction, that's just extra. But the big thing here is he does get a buffed captain effect. Now, this buffed captain effect is awesome. Now, essentially what they've done is that they have removed his really obnoxious condition in his captain effect. So for those of you who don't know, his captain effect previously stated that you wouldn't get any attack boost whatsoever. Is it with health as well? It might be with health as well. Don't really know. Either way, you had to have fighter, slasher, striker, shooter, free spirit driven, powerhouse, cerebral on your team in order to get anything to work. It was just the most difficult character to team build for. So what they've done is they've literally kept the same captain effect, but they've just removed the condition, which means he is now a rainbow captain, 3.75, 1.35 health, boosts the chances of landing on a matching slot, and then if you hit 4 greats in a row, you get a 4.5 times attack boost to your characters. Oh, it's 4.75, my bad. 4.75, but if you hit a perfect, your attack actually gets lowered. So with this guy, you actually only want to be hitting greats. It's a very, very weird style captain effect. So currently right now it's 4.5, but it goes up to 4.75 if you hit 4 greats. So that's actually like a pretty decent captain effect, honestly. Because remember, it's rainbow, and he is a striker character, so you can actually partner this guy up with someone like Kaido, for example. You can run like a full striker team or a striker-driven team or a striker powerhouse team, whatever you want. There's really, really cool things you can do here. So that's cool, but at the same time, if you wanted to run double Tesoro, it's not super great because remember, you would have to rely on your friend captain to also be limit break expanded, which is very difficult to try and organize with other members of the community to try and make sure that other people have him maxed out. But out of all the characters getting limit break expansions, this guy definitely gets the biggest buff in my personal opinion, just because that captain effect is actually amazing now. But obviously it has its drawbacks with relying on other people to also limit break expand their captain. I just wish that what they would do is that if you use a Bandai friend captain, it's a like rainbowed max limit breaked friend captain. That's what I would have expected. It doesn't have to be max socketed, doesn't have to be rainbowed, doesn't have to be, you know, max skill or anything, but just maxing the limit break of the Bandai friend captain would make a huge difference if you want to be using some of these other characters in the future. That's what I would really, really like to see. So Tesoro is really good, and of course he does get stat increases. Now the next one is Shiki. Shiki also gets a buff with his captain effect. He does get some cooldown as well. How much cooldown does he get? He gets 3, which puts him down to a 9-turn cooldown for what he does is pretty good. But his captain effect now changes, where it states he's going to be a Dex, Int, and Quick boosting captain, still the same, by 3.25, which is different, 1.5 health, which is different, and then a 4 times captain if you hit in the order of, is it Dex, Quick, and Int? Pretty sure it's, yeah, Dex, Int, and then Quick, without breaking the chain. And then he also makes Recovery in Tandem beneficial with his buffed Captain effect, whereas currently it's only 2.75 attack, so that gets buffed to 3.25, and then 1.35 health gets buffed up to 1.5 times health, and then still the Captain effect after that basically stays the same. But nice that the base multipliers go up, and especially the HP, because with a buffed HP, it means that his special ability, reducing your crew's health and then dealing damage based on the amount of health that you lost, this is obviously going to be dealing crazy amounts of damage to the enemy by reducing your health by a significant margin. So that's nice. They basically buffed, they indirectly buffed his special ability, which is what I like about it, actually. It's very, very good. And obviously, minusing 3 cooldown, going down to 9 is a big difference as well. So I like what they did with Shiki. He's still not super amazing, but it's a nice change. And then Zephyr as well. Zephyr gets some cooldown reduction. He gets also 3 turns, which puts him also at 9 turns. Very good. Now, his captain effect is going to be a shooter captain, of course, but they removed his condition where you specifically needed to have 6 shooter characters in order to get his actual attack boost. But he's a 4 times captain with a matching orb, 3.5 otherwise, and 10% damage reduction. Pretty simple, but in my opinion, Halloween Ace is still the best shooter captain in the game right now. Well, technically, Shanks Crew is, but Halloween Ace, if we're talking about an actual character that states boost shooter character's attack, Halloween Ace is the best, but indirectly, Shanks Crew is actually the best shooter captain. So all those 3, although movie legends are getting their limit break expansion, Tesoro is the best one, Shiki gets a nice buff, and Zephyr is just kind of there. He's cool. And obviously all of them get stat increases as well. So that's it for the quick typing. Let's move on to Dex right now. So Dex has Dr. Indigo and Tanaka. So where are they at? Dr. Indigo and Tanaka. Well, they're both here. So Tanaka is a character that basically never sees play. He gets -2 cooldown, which puts him down to 10 turns. What's his special do again? I know it's removes defensive effects. Removes defense up, attack up, enrage by 3 turns, and then tap timing bonus damage if the enemy, if your captain is Dex or Quick. It's not great. Skip this guy. He's garbage. The one after that is Indigo, and I can already tell you, Indigo, again, just never sees play. He gets -2 cooldown, puts him down to 12 turns, and as for his special ability, if you're below 10%, you get a full heal, which is interesting. If you've got a driven captain, you remove poison, blindness, and then you get 50% damage reduction for 3 turns. No, he's just not good. He's just not good. Skip those guys, that's for sure. And then Zoro and Franky are the other 2 characters here. So Franky, Stampede Franky, he gets some cooldown as well. He goes by -2, which puts him at 9-turn cooldown, reduces barriers by 1 turn, it does some damage, and if your captain slot is either Dex or Psy, when the special is launched, locks crew slots for 1 turn and get a 2 times attack boost to Dex and Psy for 2 turns. That's an interesting special, but again, a little situational, because any sort of special that relies on a certain orb being on your team typically aren't the best specials. I mean, look, there might be the outliers that have decent specials like that, like Halloween Boa Hancock, for example, but yeah, I don't know. This doesn't see play. It's not overly amazing. Zoro was the last character from the Dex typing here. Stampede Zoro. He gets some cooldown as well. He goes down by -2, obviously getting statistical increase as well. 9-turn cooldown. He did get 200,000 damage to 1 enemy, changes character's slot and the top row character slots into matching, and if 5 or more Dex or Psy characters are on the team, you get a 2 times slot effect for 2 turns. That's not a terrible special. You know, two times all boost for 2 turns is pretty good. And the condition is having certain characters on your team, not certain slots on your team, which is much, much better. So I guess if you're going to choose one of those 2, Stampede Franky or Stampede Zoro, you'd choose Zoro. He's got a much better special that you'd probably use more often. Franky does remove barriers though, which is pretty decent. But at the end of the day, I feel like Zoro is just a little bit better. But either way, I don't suggest doing either of those characters either. Now, let's move on to the last one, which is the strength typing. The first character from the strength typing is going to be Dice. Dice is actually a pretty good rare recruit. He's he's not bad, actually. So, Dice, does he get cooldown? He does get cooldown. That's good to see. Only by -1. Puts him down to 11, which is not terrible, but it's a health cut. It reduces enemies' barriers by 1 turn, and if your captain is strength or quick, he gets a matching slot, and then also a 1.75 rainbow attack boost. So that's a pretty good special to remove barriers and attack boost in the same unit. But of course, it does rely on your captain being either strength or quick, which is kind of annoying. He's not bad. Again, I don't think it's a character you really should be wasting materials on, though. The last of the generic rare recruits is going to be Chopper. Stampede Chopper. Here he is right here. Now, this unit is actually one that you may want to consider because he's a utility-based unit. Unfortunately, as I see there, he doesn't have cooldown reduction, which is a bit of a downfall. He reduces fear, and he has a special ability of healing. He also reduces paralysis, despair, and the chain locking effects, chain multiplier, growth rate, and also chain coefficient reduction. Reduces all of those by 5 turns, which is really good, especially the paralysis and despair. Removing those ones are the big ones. He is a fighter cerebral, so both amazing classes in my opinion. And obviously he gets fear duration, but at the same time, he goes down by another 3. So he'll be a 12-turn max cooldown. I haven't maxed my special yet for some odd reason, but not a bad special. Not a bad special, but again, he doesn't get much out of the Limit Break expansion. So I honestly don't suggest doing it because no cooldown and no buffed and there's no real buff to the unit aside from stats. I guess if you wanted extra heal from it, I suppose, but at the end of the day, you're not using this guy to heal your crew back to full HP. So that's that. Now, the last character that we're going to talk about is Douglas Bullet. He is the final character that's receiving a Limit Break expansion here. Now, with Douglas Bullet, you can see the big thing here is he does get -1 cooldown. That's very, very good. So after his expansion, he'll go down to a 14-turn cooldown. Now, that's not the only major thing about this unit. Now, as we all know, this unit is basically centered around dealing as much damage as possible so that his special ability with his end of turn damage can deal crazy amounts of damage. Now, the big thing here is he gets 50 attack there, he gets 100 attack there, so he goes up by an additional 150, so he goes up to 2,369 attack, and then obviously the HP is another big thing here as well. How much HP does this guy get? 150, 100, so it's 250, 350, 450, 450 HP, so he goes over, way over 6,000 HP. That is absolutely crazy. So if we're just talking raw stats, I believe Douglas Bullet has the highest base HP and highest base attack in the game. The HP I'm not too sure about, but I'm almost certain that he has the highest base attack in the game. For a character that aims to do what he tries to do, right, with the end of turn damage and dealing as much damage as possible, him having such a high base attack is actually very important. I think if there was anyone that if you've got all these units, hypothetically, if you're going to choose any of these characters to Limit Break expand and actually get the most out of them, I do think Douglas Bullet will be the best one. As much as Tesoro gets a buff from his Limit Break expansion, he's not a character that you're really going to be using for end game content. Douglas Bullet, on the other hand, yeah, he's a character you're going to be using to clear GARP challenges, difficult Colosseums, difficult raid bosses. He is going to be your go-to. Tesoro, with his expansion, yeah, you probably could use him for that style of content. But Douglas Bullet is so much better than Tesoro, and I think it's way better to use your materials on characters that are already amazing and make them even better rather than try to bring weaker characters back up. But at the end of the day, it's dependent on how you want to play the game. If you really want to use Tesoro, then go for it. But in my opinion, I do think it's much more valuable to use it here. I think in the grand scheme of things, though, he's not the best Limit Break expansion. There are many other legends, in my opinion, that would be better for Limit Break expansion that you should choose. But this guy, he doesn't get nothing out of his expansion. The additional cooldown reduction is huge. The stats are huge. So that's the things you need to consider when you're Limit Break expanding your characters. But that is going to wrap up this video today, guys, going through all the Limit Break expansions. So overall, well, I don't think Ain officially got her expansion in this batch, but Ain is very, very good. Baccarat was not terrible either. TM Enel and TM Smoker, you may want to consider. They're okay. Stampede Luffy's not bad. Tesoro, Shiki, and Zephyr are also not too bad. The DEX characters were pretty bad, but then Stampede Chopper, maybe, but he doesn't get much out of his expansion. And of course, this guy right here, Douglas Bullet. So that's going to wrap up this video today, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you guys did enjoy it, make sure you go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.